Are tariffs going to ruin the legal industry? Are they going to harm your law firm? This is a huge question going around for every single lawyer right now in their law practices, because we know that tariffs aren't going to directly impact law firms, but we do know that people are scared right now. Consumer sentiment is at an all-time low, and there is market volatility like never before. But how does this impact law firm owners? In this specific video, I'm gonna break down 9 very specific principles that you can leverage right now while the market is scared to double down on your law firm's growth. These are 9 growth principles that will tariff-proof your law firm. So strap in, watch the video closely, and I can't wait for you to make millions of dollars from it. Welcome everybody to week 2 of the new launch of the Law Firm Growth Acceleration Talk Show. Like Andy said last week, we took a hiatus. We did this talk show for 3 years, and we had to focus on some other things. And the bottom line is there's new confusion right now in the market. There's new doubt. There's a new landscape. The legal industry is in a period of massive change, especially with, the advent of artificial intelligence. There is a ton of stuff going on right now in the industry, and that's why we had to bring the live component of our talk show back. So we started our new podcast for the legal industry, and this is an extension of that because we had such positive feedback from when we ran this show for 3 years in the past. We had over 60,000 attorneys join this talk show when we were running it on the back of COVID. And we're so excited to be bringing this back consistently every single week. The show is about 1 hour long. And today we're going to be diving into how to tariff-proof your law firm. And I know that's an interesting topic because as law firm owners, maybe we think that tariffs aren't going to affect our firm at all. Maybe we think they are going to affect our firm. Maybe we're scared that a potential recession is going to come as a result of this, unemployment. We're going to tackle all of this today with no fluff, no filler. We're just going to go right into the brass tacks truth of what's going on and how you can innovate within your law firm to stay, or become the dominating force. So the truth is this, since the mention of tariffs began, the largest 2-day percentage decline on record in the S&P 500 history, okay, one of the biggest stock market crashes in two-day consecutive history occurred, right? And consumer confidence on top of this, which is measured by the Michigan Consumer Confidence Index, is at a almost 10-year all-time low. The only time that was lower was June of 2022. It was at 50 points. Right now it's at 52.2 points. And in the month of after COVID, April 2020, consumer confidence was at a 71.8. So consumer confidence right now, which is basically buying confidence of consumers, is 20 points lower than April of 2020 when the world was in lockdown. That right now, consumer confidence is 20 points lower than the month after COVID, okay? Just so I'm not, I'll show you exactly what the heck this means. Okay. So you see right here, consumer confidence. This is Michigan consumer sentiment. You can see in April 2025, 52.2 points. Okay. And the month after COVID, you see a huge drop here. It went down to 71.8 points, which means right now, it's just about 20 points lower than after COVID, right? So what does that mean? All right. Well, this means a lot. Okay. This means that the world is scared. Right? So you're asking yourself as a law firm owner, are tariffs going to actually impact my law firm? Now, the beautiful thing is Andy and I have a lot of experience that when March of 2020 and the year after that hit, a lot of our clients, a lot of the law firms that strapped into the talk show that we were running then had record-breaking months. How many of you are some of those law firms that had record-breaking year or in the years that followed COVID? So, not everyone suffers when market sentiment goes down, okay? All right. So, here is what I'm going to talk about today. This is really tariffs part 2. Andy covered marketing and intake side. I'm going to take more of a holistic view on how you can solve around tariffs, okay? So, first things first, we are going to dive into one of the most important topics within this, which is, are tariffs actually going to cause a recession? Okay? If you look over the past 100 years of history, there are going to be recessions, regardless of what is the inception of a recession, right? Recessions are guaranteed in business, right? Actually, the majority of businesses who succeed over a long, sustained period of time see their greatest growth during recessions because recessions expose great businesses from average businesses. What do you think happens to average businesses during recessions? Average businesses are gone 100%, or they shrink. So is it going to cause a recession? It doesn't matter because a recession is coming either way. I love that. Is it going to cause higher prices and inflation? In some areas, yeah. In some areas, no, probably. There's probably going to be a mix, right? Are there going to be job losses and unemployment? In some areas, yes. In other areas, no, right? It's not a cut and paste across every single industry, right? It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. Will this impact law firm owners? This is a big question I reflected on for today. Do you think this is going to impact law firm owners? Well, I'll give you 6 industries this is going to impact, guaranteed. Tariffs are going to impact steel and aluminum, semiconductors and electronics, automotive and heavy machinery, construction and building materials, pharmaceuticals, and retail. Now, that's in the short term. I'm saying irrespective of the long-term benefits of getting out of a trade deficit, right? So there are industries that are going to be, in the short term, affected, right? Like I just listed. Where do you think professional and business services is on the list of affected industries? Bottom or top? What do you think? Okay, I'm here to tell you the bottom of 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 list of industries affected by tariffs is going to be professional and or business services. Now, it depends on the business, the industry, right? That of business services, but professional services are at the bottom of the list. So what does that mean? You'd think, oh, that means that law firms aren't going to be affected, right? Because you're professional services. Well, okay, is that true? Well, like I said when we opened the talk show, consumer sentiment is basically at a 10-year low. Okay? S&P 500 had a record 2-day dip just a few weeks ago in the history of the S&P 500. What does that tell us? People are uncertain. Does the fact that people are uncertain affect your law firm, yes or no? So it's not that necessarily the direct cost increases that may or may not happen as a result of tariffs are going to affect your law firm. It's more so that consumer sentiment and uncertainty is going to affect your law firm. Consumer sentiment is very important for both fee-based and contingency-based practices. Why? Well, when we go into recessionary times, or there's a lot of fear, even if the intrinsic markers of a recession aren't hit, meaning unemployment numbers skyrocket, et cetera, GDP plummets, even if those numbers aren't hit in the macro economy, right, we can still have recessionary feelings in a market due to consumer sentiment. Because market psychology matters, right? If you serve consumers, which most law firms do, people who sign up with your legal services, right, and they're more scared, what's going to happen if you run a fee-based practice? they're probably going to be a little more hesitant when they put that down payment down or they, pay the fee. They're going to push off buying decisions. They're going to have more objections in the sales process. Maybe they're not going to pay your accounts receivable as fast as possible, right? They're going to delay and maybe miss some payments. Why? Fear, 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 right? Preservation mentality, okay? All right, well, let's think through it from another angle. Let's say you're a personal injury firm, okay? Personal injury firms, what happens? Well, if people are scared, do you think they may push you to accept a lower case value or settle faster? Let's say you have a case that could be worth $1 million. Yeah, there's probably a chance that a prospective client, if they're scared, they could push for faster settlements and lower value settlements, right? Not to mention, law firm owners are also consumers. Why? You buy products and services. If you're more scared, you're more likely to settle quicker. You're more likely to take on lower quality, lower value cases. You're more likely, right? Because you're a human being and you have fear, just like everyone, okay? So two things typically suffer when the market's uncertain. It's profit and performance. We're going to dive into both of these. Profit and performance. What does that mean? Performance and intake, performance and operational efficiency. We're going to unpack this from a couple different angles. So, what happens when business owners are uncertain? You're a law firm owner. Does that mean you're a business owner? Yes. When business owners like you are uncertain, what do you do? We talked about what consumers do. What do you do? Typically, you're going to spend less on marketing. Number one. Number two, typically you're going to push off hiring decisions. And number three, if you're overstaffed and you end up signing up less work than you expected, that is what ultimately leads to what people call layoffs, right? Okay, that's what happens when business owners are uncertain. That's what happens when business owners get scared. Overall outcomes. What are the outcomes when business owners get scared, regardless of whether the fear is well-rooted or not? Number one, decreased sign-up rate on intake calls. You're going to have a lower sign-up rate. Why? Well, because consumers are scared, right? Maybe you're understaffed in your intake department already. You're less likely to hire additional intake help, right? Your intake process suffers. Number two, you spend less on marketing. What happens when everyone spends less on marketing? This is a beautiful, holy grail, like ninth wonder of the world thing. What happens when everyone stops spending as much money on marketing? Supply and demand. When demand decreases, right? Marketing costs get cheaper. This is why market dominators typically take over during recessionary times, because there's very few people that are willing to maintain or increase their advertising when everyone else is pulling back, right? What happens if your accounts receivable increases? Most firms see an increase in accounts receivable if you're a fee-based firm, right? Well, then you've got to increase your accounts receivable processes, which we're going to talk about in a second. You need a bulletproof process to collect the money that you are owed by people, right? Slowed hiring, right? How are you going to combat this? Well, you're going to keep hiring at pace in tandem with the number of cases that you sign up, right? You're not going to make irrational pushing off hiring decisions. Okay, so uncertainty does not equal reality sometimes. If the market is scared, right, this is why some of the biggest opportunities happen in times of uncertainty. I once had a mentor that told me this amazing phrase: never waste a crisis. Everyone write these words down. Put them in all cap letters in your notebook and whatever's in front of you. Never waste a crisis. When other people get fearful, you get greedy. When other people get greedy, you get what? Fearful. That's a Warren Buffettism, right? Never waste a crisis. You know what I did the day the stock market crashed? What do you think I did? I opened up my Webull stock trading account and I bought thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of S&P 500 stock. Why? Well, last time this happened when the market crashed after COVID, I made 25% in a matter of a few weeks, right? That's why, Warren Buffett says you got to have assiduity. Actually, this is what Charlie Munger, his business partner, would say, assiduity. You got to know when to sit on your ass for a long enough period of time until the time is right to do something, right? That takes discipline to know when to pull the trigger, right? Yeah, I could have invested that money that I invested a few weeks ago when the market crashed. I could have invested that money weeks before that if I was impatient. But I kept that money dormant, and then boom, all in as soon as the market crashed, right? That's what I mean by assiduity. So, okay, office furniture prices increased, consumer prices increased by 25%. That's not a big deal for law firm owners. The big deal is consumer fear and how you are gonna personally cope with consumer fear by continuing to reinvest in your firm, and how you are going to innovate in the wake of your clients being a little more scared than usual. Okay, so I broke down principles of success for today's session. I'm going to break down each of them right now. So make sure if you're taking notes, please write them down. Okay, so principles of success. Here we go. Number one, double down on case generation. Double down on case generation. Hallelujah. Do I need to say it again? Double down on case generation. This is the number one opportunity. When cost of acquisition decreases, when people pull back, when people get scared, this is the separator. So we have to hunt. We have to find ways to get more aggressive right now in client acquisition. We have to. Right? This is your chance to pounce. This is your chance to put the lights out of your competitors. This is your chance to solidify yourself as the dominating force in your market when the market is scared. Okay. That's a very simple to-do list item. Double down on case generation. Couldn't be any simpler than that. Number two, this is an extension of that. Fix your entire intake script and process. Right? Why? Right now, when people are scared, when the market consumer sentiment is as low as it is, basically tied for a 10-year all-time low in consumer sentiment, people are going to have more objections. You're going to call this, oh, I'm getting more tire kickers. Does your profit and loss statement care about the excuse of you having more tire kickers? No. Your financial statement doesn't care that your prospective clients have excuses. Right? Solve it. Okay? Get these clients to sign up, the ones that you know you can help, through a better intake process and script. What are the things we have to really focus on in our intake process and script? Number one, objection handlers. How many of you have definitive objection handler scripts, lines that are used in your sales process when someone says, I need to think about it? Call me back tomorrow. I don't have the money. This isn't the right time. Do you have proven scripts and phrases to help people through the decision-making process of hiring your law firm? Mission critical. This is you throwing money out of a car window driving 90 miles an hour down the freeway. And it's like throwing the money at your competitors' faces. How many of you would love to take your hard-earned money and throw it right in the faces of your competitors? Anyone? I wouldn't like that. Not at all. No, I'm not going to throw it to these scammy competitors. Okay? I'm going to make sure that this prospective new client gets the justice they deserve by working with my law firm. Okay, so what are objection handlers? But it's mission critical that you fix your sales script and you start using closing lines. Closing lines at the end of sales calls, right? This is when you actually ask people to sign up with your law firm. Most attorney intake calls end with, do you have any questions? 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 Very rarely does a law firm intake call or a law firm sales call end with, great, hey, at this point, I feel like our solution is perfectly aligned with your needs. Do you agree? Awesome. I don't see any reason why we can't move forward right now. Would you agree? That's called a closing line, right? Integrating closing lines to the end of your sales script is an immediate moneymaker. Combine this with objection handlers, right? Objection handlers like, there's a million and one of them. Hey, on a scale, oh, I'm not ready. I need to think about it. Great. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're ready to go right now, 1 being you'd never work with our firm. Where are you at right now? Oh, I'm at a 7. Awesome. What would take you from a 7 to a 10? That is one of the best objection handlers in the world. It's not pushy. It's not salesy. Just have them quantify where they're at on a scale of 1 to 10 and then help them solve getting them from a 7 to a 10. Right? Oh, well, it's price. Price is the thing that can bring me from a 7 to a 10. Well, let me ask you this. Would you rather pay a little bit more and get what you actually need, or pay a little bit less and potentially make a mistake? Great. They're going to say pay more and get what I need. And then you're going to say, great, I don't see any reason why we can't move forward with this. We're clearly the best solution for you. Wouldn't you agree? Awesome. Then let's move forward. This is as polite as it gets, my friends. This is not pushy. This is just getting decisions from people. A mentor of mine in sales once said, sales is simply helping people make decisions, right? The best salespeople, the best sales individuals, they're able to get people to make decisions. So rate yourself in terms of your sales ability, not on how much your prospective new clients like you or like talking to you, but instead on, can you get them to make a yes or no decision? Another concept I learned in sales is know your no. What does that mean? K-N-O-W, your N-O. Know your no. Have you ever quantified the value of getting a no from someone? Right? If every 2 in 10 people you or an intake person on your team talks to results in a sale, right? Those 8 no's that you got were actually worth something, because those 8 no's also got you 2 yeses. So every no that you get is valuable to your firm, because it takes a couple of no's to get a yes in most sales processes. But one thing is guaranteed. You don't get any value from letting your prospect not make a decision. True or false? You don't get any value from that. So your job is, and your sales team's job is, to get people to make decisions. That's what great consultants do, right? All right. So that's all part of fix your entire intake script and process, number 2. All right. So number 3, prioritize net profit before you need to. This is the bottom of the law firm growth acceleration model, which we talk about in our book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator, the good old handy 525-page book that took way too long to write. So the Law Firm Growth Acceleration model, the top of the model is profits. It's also the opening chapter of the book. Net profit. This is one of the 4 prongs of the Law Firm Growth Acceleration model. Okay. You have to know the unprofitable parts of your business, because when the market contracts, your unprofitable business pieces will be exposed. So if you have one practice area type that you handle, and that practice area is operating at a 20% gross profit, and you have another type of case that you handle that's operating at an 80% gross profit, eventually the area of law that you're handling that's draining your firm's profits, it's going to be exposed when the market tightens. So you want to make decisions on these things before they become problems. You want to make decisions on the unprofitable areas of your firm before they're a problem. Before they're a problem, okay? So what does that mean? That means you have to become a profit detective in your firm. You have to constantly study what parts of your firm are profitable and what parts of your firm are unprofitable, and you got to make tough decisions. I want everyone to write this down. 60% gross profit for every business unit of your firm. For every case type, you've got to be at least 60% gross profit. Very different than net profit. Gross profit. 60% at least you want to be at. Okay? That leaves you with 20 to 30% net profit overall as a firm. I've broken this down before. I'll break it down again. What is that? Gross profit. You have your revenue, right? REVENUE, revenue, minus cost of goods sold, otherwise known as cost of sales, equals gross profit. And by the way, this is part of what we're going to analyze you on the profit and performance audit. Revenue minus cost of goods sold. Example, let's say to handle, let's say you got 100 grand from your personal injury business. To generate that 100K in case fees, you spend, 20K. Your gross profit on that is 80K or 80%. Okay, your gross profit is how much it costs for you to process a case. How much it costs for you to process a case. Okay, gross profit minus sales and marketing expenses minus OPEX equals net profit. Okay, if your OPEX is 10%, if your sales and marketing is, if you're being aggressive and growing, you're probably at least at 20%, if not, hopefully higher than that if you're growing. That's 30%. So if you're at 60%, let's say your cost of sales is 40%. Okay, that means revenue minus 40%, minus 20, minus 10. Okay, that is 4, 5, 6, 7. That means you're operating at 30% gross or net profit, 60% gross profit. Gross profit is one of the most important health indicators of the practice areas and case types that you solve. If you are handling low gross profit cases, meaning it takes a lot of paralegal, a lot of support staff, and a lot of attorney hours and work to, per unit of revenue to solve cases of that type, to produce outcomes in those case types, you might have to cut that case type. You may have to increase your fees to make the top line bigger so your gross profit increases, right? Very, very, very important that you solve your net profit and gross profit needs before they become problems. How are you going to do this? Again, increase your average fee per case. That's one of the fastest and easiest ways to become more profitable in a case type. Just increase your average fee per case. Right? Another way is through operational efficiency. Right? Meaning you want your team to get more results for less time input. Therefore, you're paying them less per unit of output, right? So you really have operational efficiency or revenue increasing as your two options. And then the last ditch resort is cutting overstaffing in certain areas. Let's say there's parts of your firm where you're just overstaffed. That's kind of like the last ditch, but sometimes you gotta make some cuts. Remember this: most sports teams cut 50% of their players every single year. Most businesses never cut 50% of their players, and that's because family vibes kind of creep into our business, and we start losing track of performance, and we start losing track of why we're paying the person what we're paying them, which is for performance. So we got to prioritize net profit before you need to, okay? Next, we have to demand team productivity and no dead weight. This is what we call a self-managing team. I want you to enthusiastically know that every member on your team, every minute of their day, is busy and filled with productive work. You got some people who on your team are working 14 hours a day, and I guarantee you have other people that are actually working 4 hours a day, even though they say they're working 8 hours a day, in terms of business outcomes and high-value tasks that they actually should be doing. You got to look into this. You got to ask your team, tell me what you did. Tell me what you did last week. Tell me what you did. Hey, or if you have managers in your team, or you have a operations manager, or you have a firm administrator, have them send an email to the team. Hey, tell me what you did last week. It's like funny, like some of these things with the whole Doge team, with the, this is like such a fundamental, simple thing. Like, just tell me what you did last week, right? And people like freak out about it. And it's like, this is a common business practice. Like asking your team what you did last week allows you to manage and better optimize. It's not anything more complicated than that, right? And, you're going to learn so many things about where your team is wasting time. You're going to become a better leader when you understand what they're spending time on. And oftentimes, 50% of what they say, you're going to be shocked by. You're going to be like, what? You're spending time on this? Whoa, 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 whoa. We can hire a virtual assistant to do this. Your job is to do this, produce outcomes here, right? So, demand team productivity and no dead weight. Okay, this is your duty and obligation to your team, is to make sure that your firm is solvent and has a future for everyone on your team. That's your duty and obligation as a leader. And if that pisses off a couple of people on your team, great. You're going to have to take that sacrifice in exchange for giving everyone else jobs and a future at your company. It is what it is. If being CEO was the most likable thing in the world, then everyone would do it. But it's not. Sometimes you got to make tough decisions. Okay. Next, push client evangelism and referrals. Super important. A lot of you have already had hundreds of clients in your firm. What have you done for them to reunite them and build evangelism across all your past clients? I have a client of ours that rents out an entire amusement park and invites his 5,000 plus clients to it every single year. And it is the biggest referral generator I think I've ever seen of any law firm we've worked with. It is insane how many referrals he gets just by building a tribe with all of his past clients, by renting out some it's not a big amusement park, a small local amusement park that's like run down. It's like a nature camp thing up here in Pennsylvania. And like, holy crap, people like make it the highlight of their year to attend this get together. And he gets so many referrals from it. So giving back to the community, you got to give your clients a feeling of security in scared times. Think about how great that is for a law firm brand, right? You want people to feel that when they encounter your brand, they get a sense of security during tough times, right? And one way to do that is through client evangelism, doing local events, giving back to the community, creating a tribe with all your past clients to make a, it is Knoebels, actually. It's funny. It's funny you knew exactly which one I was referring to. So renting out a local whatever and creating an evangelism event for your clients can be one of the biggest referral generators you ever do. All right, next, differentiate your value proposition. There is one time when it is the best time to do this, and that is right now, right? When people encounter your firm, they better leave that intake call knowing, holy crap, I just said no to the best law firm in the market. Can you guarantee that every person who doesn't sign up with your firm, they at least know they said no to the best freaking firm in the market? Whew, man, how do you do that? Value proposition. This is how you position the beginning of your intake calls, right? By sharing social proof, by sharing the fact that you're not just a X law firm, you've reinvented the entire way of going about X through X, Y, and Z methodology that only we do in X state, right? So you want every person who leaves your firm to know, because of your value proposition, they at least said no to the best firm in their market. Then you can go to bed in peace at night, knowing that at least the people who called your firm and said no, at least they know for sure for the rest of their lives, they will have to live with the fact that they said no to the best firm in their market. Now, how most people treat introductory calls is right into administrative fact finding. Oh, tell me your name. Tell me the date of the incident. Tell me what happened with it. Tell me what me. And now you have to do what's called, everyone write this down, a capabilities brief. Okay. Capabilities brief is where you stop the person from answering all these questions and you say, hey, let me tell you a little bit about what makes our firm different. That's a capabilities brief. And you give them a brief about the capabilities and the differentiators of your law firm. And this has to come from you. You write this. And it should only be, we're talking 20 to 60 seconds max. You know, let me tell you a little bit about our firm before we go any deeper. Is that okay with you? Okay. Our firm was founded here. This is how many successful blah blahs we have. This is how many successful clients we've had. If you talk to any other firm in the market, they're going to be like blah. And we completely reinvented the whole thing and did it. We're like blah. And the reason we're like blah is because we do blah, blah, and blah completely different than anyone else in our market. Can you see how that would be valuable to the thousands of clients that we've served and why it's worked? Yes. Awesome. I'm going to go back into questions. Boom. That's called planting a seed. You planted a seed, right? And then when they have objections at the end of the call, that seed has now grown into a shrub, right? Okay. Differentiate your value prop. Front load this in your intake calls. Next, put out a ton of content. Put out social media content. Put out a ton of YouTube content, TikTok content, Instagram content. Put out as much content as you possibly can. Why? Your follower base will grow faster when the world is scared. When the world is scared, they listen. My 4th webinar ever was when COVID hit, right after COVID hit. I had 3,777 attorneys on my 4th webinar ever. This is like right after lockdowns, right after PPP was launched. 3,777 attorneys. Why? Everyone was scared. Everyone was at home. Lockdowns happened. We were the only voice during that time, which is how this talk show was actually founded, right? When people are scared, they listen. The biggest mistake I made during COVID was I didn't repurpose all of the PPP loan videos that I did. I didn't repurpose them for YouTube and my other social media platforms. I would have hundreds of thousands of followers right now if I just freaking repurposed that content. But the talk show was a great outcome of that, and, you know, build our email lists and all that stuff. So it's still had a big impact. So put out a ton of content, okay? And if you're in PI, if you're contingency fee, do not relent on quick settlements. Just because fear may be a little bit higher, remain steadfast, educate your clients more on the value of time in your cases so that you can get them the best possible settlement for their time invested. If you're not contingency fee based, see if you can get yourself a financing partner. This has been a big unlocking experience for some of our clients. Allowing your clients to finance their payments to your firm through a third party. You get paid a flat amount through your financing partner up front. They bear the financial risk. Okay? There's plenty of financing partners. It is hit or miss as to whether you can get clients approved for financing based on your practice area and the average household income of your average clients. But we have seen breakthrough success for fee-based firms finding financing partners for people who say they don't have the money and financing that. So, yeah, you're going to have to do your own research on that, but there's plenty of opportunities for that. Big takeaway for all this, okay? There's a ton of things you can do. You can double down on your case generation. You can fix your intake script and process. Prioritize net profit before you need to. Demand team productivity. Have no dead weight. Push client evangelism and referrals. Differentiate your value prop. Put out a ton of content. Get a financing partner. And if your contingency fee, do not relent on quick settlements, okay? The biggest principle is this. Easiest time to grow is when the world is scared. That's the most important principle that I'm trying to communicate here. The more scared everyone else is, the more courage you should have, right? So that's the big takeaway here. Our company, SMB team, was really founded when COVID hit, right? Because we had just a teeny weeny bit of courage during that time period to put our names out there, right? So the question is, are you going to pounce right now, or are you going to pull back? So big summary, big picture. Now is not the time to freeze up. While professional services is not going to be one of the most affected industries, every industry is affected when consumer sentiment changes, right? So you must take this dead seriously for yourself, that you need to be focusing more on reinvesting in the future of your firm now than ever before. And appreciate everyone's time as well for taking time out of your busy schedule. We are going to be running a talk show just like this at the same exact time next week. This will be our third week back, and I'll be very excited to see how many of you show up for that next week. Andy will be running that week. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and I'll be excited to see the value that some of you get from this profit and performance audit. See ya next time. Thanks so much for watching this video I put together for you. Super important that if you got value from it, please do me a big favor and press the subscribe button just so that I know you love me. No, not that you love me, that you love the content and the value that it has for you, because we're trying to have a bigger impact on law firm owners than anyone else in the industry, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, if you want us to put your law firm through a free profit and performance plan, which is something we've never offered before, then go to smbteam.com/profit plan, and we're going to analyze your law firm across 20 different factors to determine your operational and financial readiness for growth. And we're going to give you a custom report on how you can improve the areas of your firm that need to be improved, along with double down on the areas of your firm that are already working. So I hope you go to smbteam.com/profit plan to take advantage of this, and I'll see you in the next video.